Hello and welcome to Forever Wild, the television program dedicated to environmental education in the Horry County schools. I am your host, Ben Abercrombie. You can call me Ben, you can call me Mr. Abercrombie, you can call me Abercrombie Fitch, or you can call me Roadkill, whatever you want to call me as long as it's a good word. Welcome to today's episode. We are going to be showing you how to make natural art. It's a real rainy day outside. You might want to have something to do on a cold rainy day this wintertime, especially as it's approaching the holiday season. We're going to be doing many different arts and crafts projects. Why don't you come along and see what we have to offer? See you in a little bit. Natural art, that is the culmination of whatever you can think of out of your creative spirit and mind, combined with whatever you can find in nature. And that's what's going to be today's topic. I know a lot of the time, right before the holiday season, it's starting to get cool, a little bit colder outside. Some days you have real rainy days like we have outside today at Playcard. And it's really cold and wet on the kids, so maybe you want to have some indoor stuff to do with the kids. What we've done is we've kind of prepared a little collection of different ideas for you to maybe work with your kids and your students inside using natural materials. A lot of this stuff is inspired by natural ideas and by nature itself. So let's take a look at what we've got and kind of collect it for you guys to take a look at today. First thing we've got is we've got a beautiful compound leaf. This is called the mockernut hickory. And as you can see, it's an alternately compound leaf. Leaves are alternate from each other. And they're bright yellow because this is the late fall of the year. Good gosh, we're right along the side, almost Thanksgiving. We're right before Thanksgiving here in Horry County. We still have lots of pretty leaves outside to collect. So we've got some of these. We have got some previously collected and laminated sheets such as this locust. We've got a locust here. We've got all kinds of different types of leaves. We've got mimosa here. We've got your sycamore. We've got many different kinds of leaves, and if you ever want to preserve your leaves through the wintertime, it's a great way to do it for your kids. Just simply laminate them and label them. It's a great way for your kids to be able to use projects, maybe when it's leaf-off time in the dead of winter. It's a good time to teach about your plants using that. One way you can teach using natural materials is using these leaves for leaf rubbings. I know this makes great decorations for your classroom. Make great decorations for your house, and it makes wonderful art that you can put all over the place. It's just beautiful creations you can come out of nature here. You can also combine science in your art too if you'd like. And the way you do that is you take the leaf right here, which in this case is a compound leaf. We're going to take one little leaflet off that compound leaf, off this hickory leaf. We're going to lay it down right here. And there's a technique to doing a leaf rubbing properly. A lot of people say, well, leaf rubbing is a good thing to do, and it's easy to do. You just rub your crayon right across it. This crayon's been stripped of all of its plastic coating on the outside here and all of its paper. And all you have to do is rub it back and forth, and it'll just all of a sudden make this beautiful leaf come alive here. Well, it kind of does. Now you can see that leaf is starting to show up with just a little bit of pressure from this crayon. You're starting to see the main veins and ridges from these leaflets coming off this compound leaf. Starting to see the ribs and everything, but you're not really seeing much details in the veins of the leaf or where all the water and food and materials are transported through the leaf. So the way you get your vein is you have got to be a little bit more detailed. You've got to come along the edge of the main ribs here of the leaf, and you got to rub back and forth, very, very heavy pressure along the edge of the leaf like that. Turn your crayon over, and you rub back and forth again, so that rib doesn't push your crayon up in the air. It makes it really nice leaf rubbing. Especially you new teachers out there and folks that have little children and have maybe just brand new parents and have never done leaf rubbing. This is a great little way to get kids interested in leaves and learning about nature and being more observant. It's a great way to study nature. So let's take these leaves and we're going to see what kind of leaf rubbing we can do here. We're just going to rub the edges out of this thing back and forth. Now children are going to have a little bit more trouble than what you are, or what an adult is like myself doing these leaf rubbings, because they're not quite as strong as we are, so they need to put a little bit more pressure than you and I are able to do. So we'll do this just kind of as an example for you all. As you can see, it's almost like magic. You've got all these different beautiful patterns and shapes showing up off of these leaflets on this compound hickory leaf. And there you have it. There's an imprint. There's the stem. And there's where the water veins are. And if you'd like to, you can put down water veins and put a little label out here on the side as a science little activity. Or as if you want to make this just a pretty art, you can write down at the bottom, hickory. So we're just going to write down here on the bottom, hickory. And that's from the hickory tree, or mocker nut hickory specifically. And that can go right on your wall. It's kind of a neat little way to get kids involved with nature. This is our secret plant press, probably the best plant press ever invented, and it's just about a freebie. It comes with your any phone service. You take that phone book, I personally like the yellow pages because it matches the yellow leaf here, and you put that leaf inside the yellow pages there, or whatever page you want, and you fold that thing up nice and flat and tight to it. This is such a big leaf, we might have to do a little bit better than that. We'll have to get all these leaflets in here. Fold it down, fold it down, fold it down. What you'll end up with after you fold it is a beautifully pressed plant leaf. Now that's going to stay in there for about 2 or 3 weeks. You would leave that in there. And you end up with this beautifully fine, paper-thin, preserved leaf that will be totally preserved for any time you'd like to do a leaf rubbing or have a leaf collection for your children. It's a great way to do that. Very inexpensive way as well. All right, let's lay that off to the side. Here we go. That's a good fall activity for your children. By the way, a little tidbit about fall colors. The reason why these leaves are not green and they're turning all these different beautiful colors, maybe you'll see a yellow leaf or a red leaf or any color under the sun but green, is the fact that these leaves are this color, this pigment, underneath the chlorophyll. And the chlorophyll drops out of the leaf as the sap starts to go back down in the tree in a deciduous plant, okay? And as it does that, it reveals the color underneath. This is the actual true color of that leaf year-round up underneath the chlorophyll pigments. It's kind of an amazing little tidbit of fact of science there. It's neat. The next little topic of our show here is going to be about the Native American dream catcher. Now the dream catcher, the myth of the dream catcher goes way back. The legend of the dream catcher starts way back in Chippewa times, when they said that the original Native Americans that were on our continent here used the dream catcher that they made, similar to these dream catchers maybe behind us, such as this one right here. This is a Native American dream catcher. They hung this thing right behind the headboards or the where people would sleep. And the way the Native American shelters were constructed, they usually faced, the opening faced east, or the doorway usually traditionally faced east. That puts the head of the bed at the western side of the Native American shelter, be it a teepee or be it any other constructed shelter for Native American tribes. So as the sun would come up and rise in the east, it would shine beams of light. And after this big, huge spider web right here was hanging over the top of their headboards, it would attract all these dreams, according to their myth, and it would burn away those dreams. That sunlight coming right before you woke up would burn away all those dreams, and then when you woke up, you would come back and have good spirits all about you all day long. It would burn away the evil spirits, they believed. It's very interesting mythology that goes along with it, and spiritual religion, Native American religion goes with it. Here we go. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to make one. What you do is you start out with a piece of grapevine. Now, we've previously picked this grapevine right off of our edge of our woods back in here. And traditionally, wild grape, or muscadine grape as it's called, is a vine that's got little teeny tiny white dots all over it. Okay, the grapefruit being typically on the vine in August. You can eat the grapefruit, and you can take these things. They're very, very tough, fibrous vines. And what you do is you take these little tendrils off, like I'm doing here, pop those off, so you make it a nice and straight here, and just little nodules on it. You take that thing, and you just simply, it's very easily flexed. You flex it right back around on itself, and you make about a 3.5 to 4 or 5 inch hoop. In this case, we'll probably do a 5 or 6 inch hoop just to show you on TV. You just kind of weave it around itself to get it started like this. Okay, that's how you start your dream catcher. I want to kind of pull it back. We're going to need just about that much of it to start our little dream catcher hoop. As you can see, I've just woven it around itself so it all stays in there. It's a nice little round circle. Okay, So what we're going to do is we have got artificial sinew right here. This was purchased at a local craft store. It's about $4.50 for a roll that'll last you just about forever. It's a humongous roll of this stuff here. It's basically a waxed corded fiber. But the sinew used by the Native Americans was the back ligament of the deer. Now, that would traditionally go from the tip of the hoof here all the way up the back of the leg. And they would use it to make their dream catchers. So what we'll do is we'll take our sinew here, and we will pull it off the stalk here. And as you go, we're going to start making our dream catcher. And if you would like, you can cut kind of away. I'm going to tie the top of it first, so it'll all kind of hold together there, and it won't break apart on us when we try to get it under a little bit of stress here. We're going to have to pull it really tight when we get down near the final stage of it. So here we go. We're going to tie this up, and we'll get it started. Okay. Now we've tied just a little square knot or a couple half hitches in the top of it. And what we're going to do, just like these dream catchers right here, the way they were started, was about just every so often, maybe every knuckle length apart, or inch or 2 inches apart, you would come around it and you would grasp the dream catcher. I'm going to have to cut some of this sinew so we can get started here. And you would loop around itself. You basically do that by passing a little string here back through itself. Pass it back through like that, and you make you a little loop back up and under. If you can see that against my shirt there, I've kind of made a little 2-inch loop back up and under itself. It's got a little bit of flexibility. You see it right there? Just a little loop. And I'm going to continue to do that all the way around the outside. The second layer of string is very simple. All you have to do is make a little loop behind the string, the second layer of string as you're coming under, and be able to pass the string right back under itself. So in other words, make the loop and pass it back around and under that loop from the opposite direction. So you bring it back through the second strands. You're in essence making just a little twisted weave of sinew around each one of the levels. And as you go, you kind of tighten them and you adjust them to wherever you want them to be. So when you get done, you'll have this nice pretty little spider web pattern in the middle of the weaves. As you can see here, you can keep going on and on and on and on and making this thing just as elaborate as you would like to make it. Maybe like that one right there. We're just going to make a little demonstration dream catcher here, just something very simple. So what we're going to do to end your dream catcher, when you get all your little wraps and coils done, what you do is you tie a knot. And very simply tie a knot. You wrap it around one of the strands, and you wrap it back over itself, and you tie a little half hitch knot in the end of it. You just loop it under itself a couple times like that, a couple of simple little half hitches, and you just take your scissors and you go doink, and you cut the end of it, and there's our little completed dream catcher right there to catch all your bad dreams at night. Now there's lots of ways the Native Americans would adorn these things. You could take beads, for example. I've got one over here. It's a very simple one that a child was working on the other day, and it's got beads on it, and see these, they have feathers on them. Native Americans are very much ornate individuals, and they love to have lots of decorative adornments on their different things that they made, and dream catchers were just like every other thing Native Americans had. This is leather strapping. If you want to hang it up, there's two ways you can hang it up. You just hang it up on a peg on your wall, hang it straight off the wall, kind of like that right there. Or you can take the dream catcher and you can put a little leather strap on the top there maybe, or even a little Christmas ornament hanger, and you can hang it from the wall, just like that. Makes a good little decoration as well as a way to catch your bad dreams at night. Back in pioneer days and back in Native American days, they had to have ways of making toys with children as well. They didn't have all the money in the Walmarts and all these different big department stores to go into and buy all these gifts and ornaments and all these different things from. So they had to make their own. And the way you do that is you can make toys. Now, the way you make a toy, this is a little simple corn cob dart. Corn cobs were used for many different uses. Everything from what you did whenever you went to the bathroom, wipe yourself, all the way to any other utilitarian uses you can think of for this thing. They made pottery, and they would roll it around the outside of their pottery and make make the pottery look really nice. And to this day, you can find pottery and artifacts from Native Americans that have got corn roll designs on the outside of them. One other way they use corn cobs is they would take, and the Native Americans taught the pioneers this actually, they would make little darts out of these things. And the way you do that is you might take a feather like this. I believe this one here is a seagull feather we got from the beach. And we just stick it in the top, just like that, in the corky pith of the corn cob here. And we take another one just like this, and we would put it opposite of each other because there's a bend or a curve in that feather. It kind of bends like this. So what we do is we put the two bends backwards, back to back, and we make what's called a corn cob dart. And there's no need to worry about the word dart because these aren't sharp. These are safety darts, I guess, so to speak. This is the world's first safety dart, safety tip dart. And Native Americans would have all kinds of different games to play with this. One game was they would take their little dream catcher and make a larger size one, and they would score points for who could throw it in what hole of the dream catcher. Kind of a neat little game. Now, you can teach about lots of scientific topics with this little activity too. You can talk about aerodynamics of flight and how feathers cause lift. And then you can also talk about how these things they spin through the air, making them more accurate. So watch this whenever I drop this dart. I'm going to drop it. I'm not going to spin it on my own. Watch what happens when that dart drops. You see it start to spin and rotate? We'll try it one more time. I'm going to show you how it goes. We'll drop it from way up here. Kind of watch it as it gets closer to the ground there, Brian. Okay, ready? So you see it starts to rotate on its own? It automatically rotates. So when you throw it, it's kind of, if it's an accurate thing, like a regular dart, you can play a dart game with it, throw this thing back and forth in a game of catch. And another way you could use this little corncob dart is you could throw it at a target similar to that big dream catcher right there. Of course, different points are awarded for different holes you get it in, just like our game of darts today. So we're going to throw it right at that. Oh, I got it in the bottom hole. That may be 10 points for my team, okay? That's just like our game of darts. We have different points for the number of holes they have in each slot. Another way you can play this game is every time you throw the corncob dart and you miss a hole, let's say that missed a hole, I would give my dart to the other team. Whoever has all the darts at the end of the game wins the game. It's kind of a neat little Native American game. All right. A corncob dart makes a really neat throwing target. Next, it's time to have fun with acorns. Native Americans, they had to make all their own toys. So one way they did that was they found anything they could find, and they learned how to have fun with it using their imaginations. Children love to use acorns, and as you can see, this is a white oak acorn. The Native Americans would boil the meat of this thing, and they would eat it. It's one of the only toys I know that you could probably eat. It's really neat. So what they would do to make a toy out of this thing, they would either play jacks with it. They would have a primitive form of jacks. Or they can make a top out of these things. You can also make a whistle. I'll show you how you can do that. This is the white oak acorn. It's a very large tree that grows in middle sandy areas in Horry County. So you can find it all over the county, as well as the state. Very common tree in South Carolina. I'm going to take the cap of the acorn off. We'll save it for later. You're going to show you how to make a whistle out of that. Here's what you want to do. You want to be able to take a stick. You take a little stick here off from the side. And it just so happens I've got a little stick right here in my finger. That's one that's been whittled out earlier, and they would use their little knives and whittle that out, or a little sharp object, anything they could find to scrape that, maybe even against a rock to sharpen it. And they would take the top of the acorn, make a little hole in it with maybe a bone or something like that, something hard that would knock a hole in the top of that. And they would stick a little piece of stick, just like this, right down in the top of that acorn. And as you can see, that acorn has got a little bitty bump. I don't have a scientific word for that. It's just a little bitty hard bump right on the tip of it. It looks like just a little bump sticking out there that it can spin on. So what that does, whenever you get this thing perfectly lined up, or as close as you can, and you spin it, watch what happens. It starts to spin like a top. Now the challenge is to have 2 or 3 children around here and see who could spin their tops the longest. That was kind of a neat little Native American challenge game. And without them even knowing it from book knowledge, they learned about symmetry, which is the art of making something centered around the middle. Anything with symmetry has 2 parts, or is balanced, okay? It's the art of balance, basically. They would learn that using an acorn. Isn't that neat? That's a little acorn top. And of course, it spins on its side whenever it goes off balance, using centripetal force right there. An acorn top. Okay. back to the acorn cap. Now here's the acorn cap. What we're going to do is we're going to turn this into a whistle. And to turn the acorn cap into a whistle, let me take this other little acorn off here. Let's take this one over here that's just by itself. Okay. Here I have the acorn cap. It pulled right off the top of that acorn, just like that. Pulled right out. Take that acorn cap, and it's a hollow half circle or bowl shape, a little bowl shape on the inside, so it's concave for all you folks out there on the inside. What you do is you take your knuckles of your fingers, on your hands here, knuckles of your thumbs, and you put it right across the middle of that bowl. You don't want the knuckles way back here behind it because it's hard to make a whistle that way. You want the knuckles right across the middle of that acorn cap. And it's kind of an art to doing this. You need to have a lot of practice. You roll your knuckles inward like this. Kind of see how I'm rolling them up? When I do that, I angle my thumbs in. What I'm doing is I'm causing a way to make a little V, or like a little whistle point right there. All the whistle is air blowing across a small surface. It makes a real high-pitched whistle. See that little small surface we got in there now? Now the air should come out of my lips, blow around that bowl, come out of that little bitty hole right there, and make a whistling sound. Let's see what happens. If you want to make one of these at home, it's really simple. To get the whistling pitch, you got to angle your fingers back and forth as you blow to kind of get the right pitch. So let's see what we can do. There's lots of different pitches and tones you can make from that. You can almost make your own little version of music about how you hold that acorn in your hand. It's kind of a unique way to make sound. That neat acorn whistle right there from nature. If you're ever stranded or lost in the woods, it's another way to make a little emergency whistle if you don't have one. It's kind of neat. Well, this month's species of the month is the pine, specifically the longleaf pine, and I have got examples here of some longleaf pine. Right here in front of us, we've got longleaf pine cone. It's a very large pine cone, the largest pine cone you'll see in South Carolina. Humongous pine cone, great, big, gigantic pine cones. These things can get up to about that long, humongous pine cones. Matter of fact, I've got one right back there that's about a foot long. It's about that tall. Huge. If you see the big pine cones in South Carolina, you've got a longleaf pine. Longleaf pine was very important around the turn of the century for export of turpentine. The turpentine industry made the pine sap into turpentine. They would drain the pine sap out of the tree. It would eventually, unfortunately, it would kill the tree. But over time, that tree trunk would harden very, very hard into like a fat-lightered stump. And that fat lighter is so full of pine sap, it takes hundreds of years for it to rot. So even today in today's woods, you can see little cat faces in the pine logs. We'll show you a cat face in just a minute. I got one right around the corner. All right. This is actually a ball of sap that came off the bottom of the Waccamaw River. It's hard as a rock. As you can hear it on my microphone there, I'm knocking on it. It's hard as a rock, very dense substance here. It's not amber, has not turned into amber yet. What this came from was years ago, the old naval stores industry, which is the British industry of exporting to Britain all the turpentine for sale in the shipbuilding industry, usually at the time, and for other building purposes. They would collect all that pine sap from the pine trees in these big wooden barrels. And every now and then a wooden barrel would roll off that ship and it would fall into the river. And it was so heavy with that pine turpentine, it was denser than water, it would sink. And when it would sink, it would all collect at the bottom. It would harden into this substance. It took about 50 to 100 years for this substance right here to harden. And there are even sources that tell me that this pine sap may form in deposits naturally on its own out of old pine logs in the river after hundreds and hundreds of years of accumulation. Wonderful substance. You can break it. It breaks just like rock. It's like a little dry powder here in my hands when it breaks. And the guy that comes out, he uses this to boil up kettle cook swamp potatoes, they call it. He would take a big kettle, throws this in there, boils it to a liquid form, drops the potato in there, and when the potato starts to float, he knows it's done. Not only does it seal in all the juices of the potato, the sweet potatoes and white potatoes, it makes some of the best homemade sweet potatoes you ever had in your life. And it preserves the potato for about a month. You can eat those swamp potatoes a month after they've been cooked. Amazing little fact about how to preserve food using pine sap. All right, now if you look right here, here's a little sapling we have. This is probably about a 3-month-old sapling that's growing out of our forest. And especially for you little first graders that need to know about your different parts of your tree, here are the roots. These roots are sucking up water and drinking water out of the ground and drinking up nutrients and good things out of the soil. This little dark part of the soil here is your nutrients it's drinking up into the stem. Carries the stem nutrients and water all the way up to the top here. And here are the pine needles, or pine leaves. And in those leaves, it's green. Year-round, it's green. You can take the leaves of this thing and chop them up very fine and boil them and take it and boil it down until it gets to a real kind of a light brown color, a little bit light to dark brown. And you can drink that, and that is called pine needle tea. Put a little sugar in it. It's very high in vitamin C. It's good to cure kind of what ails you in the wintertime, but it keeps your spirits up. It's really neat. It's a Native American, old Native American remedy for kind of the blues, I guess you want to say. Kept your vitamin C levels high. It's called a taproot. One big root coming off the bottom with lots of little hair roots coming off the side. Neat little sapling there. Now, on to the good part. Since we have made all of these craft items today, what we're going to do is we're going to take this longleaf pine cone and we're going to turn it into not only a natural holiday ornament, but a natural bird feeder as well. And the way you do that is you simply use bird seed and you use peanut butter. Okay, let's see how we do that right quick. I'm going to flip this little container over so we don't make too much of a mess here. And we'll see how we do this. Can you see this if I flip it over in the container? Okay. I'm going to flip it over and kind of keep it out where you can see it at the same time. I'm going to first take my peanut butter right here. Whatever brand, it doesn't matter as long as it's good old, I like creamy peanut butter better than the chunky, but you can use chunky. You glob a bunch of this stuff right down inside these little cracks and crevices where these pine seeds used to be. Slap it down in there. Pull it just like that right there until you fill them up with good old creamy peanut butter. Let me see here. Just got to get a big glop of this stuff right on the end of there. And you just paint with it. You just stick it all down inside. You take your bird seed and you put it in a container just like I'm doing right here. You just kind of get a little messy with it. Kids like to get messy. Let's get messy with this thing. Okay, you put it all down inside there. This keeps it messy, but not too messy. Okay, take your bird seed, stick it in there. We have our massively gooed up, humongous pile, 5-pound weighted, gigantic, from Mars, not really, from Earth, from planet Pine Tree, pine cone. This thing looks like a big, humongous ball of peanut butter, and it's about 1.5 cans of peanut butter I put in that sucker. That thing's full of peanut butter. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to roll that thing in this bird seed, and we're going to make a big bird 5-star buffet. Here we go. We're going to roll it up. Roll it up, 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 roll it up. Roll it. I mean, let it roll from your soul. Get it all around there. All right, let's do it twice. This would make a good, if you were a bird, you'd like to have this at the fair. You know, this would be like having a fair type of meal. This would be better than a funnel cake almost. Here we go. Right, roll it up. Then you end up with this wacko looking thing like this right here, this big pile of sticky, gooey bird seed, inside out peanut butter dough. And that's what you end up with right there, a big, about a 5-pound weight ball of that stuff. Fantastic bird feeder. You hang that, you better have a very strong holiday tree limb. Let me let you know about this. This makes good outdoor ornaments. Not only is it good for the wildlife, it's good for teaching your kids about birds. Hey, you can teach them about all kinds of things, about ornithology, about all your different types of your birds. Buy you a little bird book, learn about the birds. Well, everybody, as we hang our big, giant peanut butter ball Christmas ornament here on the side of this tree, our peanut butter pine cone, we're going to bid you adieu. We're going to see you next time on Forever Wild, the environmental education show from Horry County Schools. Thank you for watching. I've been Roadkill Abercrombie. Hope you have a happy holiday season. See you later. Bye-bye.